was Bob Ross a great artist? Is that or good artist?
Is Bob Ross a great artist? So it's not necessarily whether or not he had an impact. It's just, is he a good artist or not?
Well, like, then what's your opinion of a good artist or good art?
I think there are two different routes that you can go in defining great when it comes to art, and it's either are they technically great or are they socially great? Like, did they make enough impact to achieve greatness in art history's eyes?
Yeah.
Or were they so technically above their peers, or did they achieve something that nobody has achieved prior? I feel like those two things are kind of...
Yeah. Because, like, my definition of, like, good art is kind of just effort.
I know there are a lot of people who will go to a museum and look at certain pieces of modern art, like, we could use Rothko for an example. When you look at his work, you might... a lot of people read it off really quickly just because it...
I mean, everybody's like, I can do that.
Right, it's just
you
colors. But you didn't, and a lot of people honestly probably couldn't. Even if they tried, I don't think that they could.
Especially after you do, like, a master study.
Mm-hmm.
I think the master studies are really humbling.
They're very humbling. They're very eye-opening.
I was like, wow, I could paint those trees. I said confidently.
I could not, in fact, paint those trees.
The fact that, like, Monet would sit outside and, like, just whip one out in plein air.
Yeah.
And then I sat there for 4 weeks trying to paint the same trees.
Yeah.
It was a little embarrassing, but it's okay.
Yeah. So I guess Bob Ross had a niche. That's how I always kind of talk about him, is he had something that he did really well and probably better than other people, but it is a simple method. Like, it's not necessarily a super technically advanced method, but he did it so well. Yeah. And he did it in a way that he repeated the process so much that he could effectively teach it and replicate it over and over and over again. And I think that's pretty cool, and not a lot of people can say that. Yeah.
And also, I don't think he sold any of his art. I'm pretty sure there's just, like, a warehouse of Bob Ross art somewhere.
Yeah.
So, like, that's another thing. He was just painting for the good vibes, the happy trees, and happy accidents.
Let me look it up. Did Bob Ross sell any of his works? Bob's true passion was not in selling his paintings, quoted as Joan Kowalski,
president of Bob Ross Inc.
There's a Bob Ross Inc.?
Well, that means he is a great... I mean, there's no Van Gogh Inc., so maybe there is. I don't know.
There probably is.
Well,
but I mean, honestly, that's a pretty good baseline of if you're going towards the more, like, socially great route, or, like, the art history route. If they are good enough or acclaimed enough to have their own ink, that's pretty great.
Yeah. I remember, like, watching Bob Ross as a child. And not, like, I know I can't do anything that Bob Ross does because I'm not that patient.
But as far as if Bob Ross is, in fact, a good artist or not, I think that's one of those questions that there is no actual answer to.
Yeah, because great art is dependent on the person viewing it.
It's very objective.
Yeah.
I think there's also something to be said about whether or not quantity over quality is kind of a thing when it comes to great artists. Because Van Gogh had a very troubling life, which makes currently anyway his story more appealing, I think, to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Bob Ross had more of a happy kind of outlook on life, and he brought a very positive energy to people, even if necessarily his home life wasn't that positive. That's what he portrayed. Yeah. But they both made a lot of work. Yeah. Like, a lot more than some people.
Does it say how much art he made?
I don't know. I'd probably have to look that up.
Because I know, like, for his show, he would make an art piece before the show, and then he would teach that art piece. So, 30,000! Holy cow!
This is a quote from ArtNet News, which I don't know how, good that source is, but he was remarkably prolific, producing more than 1,000 paintings in the course of hosting The Joy of Painting, and around 30,000 in total by his own estimation. Not many of those he sold either.
Yeah. Huh. Well, take that, Van Gogh.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we thought you were cool with 900-ish.
Ish. Yeah, because that is something that they both have in common, is that they didn't really sell much of their art, but they made a lot of art.
Yeah.
So that really isn't a testament to how much they wanted to create.
Yeah.
And so then maybe we could also talk about, is the purpose behind the work what makes the artwork itself better or worse?
Yeah, which kind of goes into Dada.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Is the purpose behind it?
Is the urinal good or bad? I mean the fountain.
Is the fountain good or bad? And does our mutt deserve another chance?
He definitely deserves another chance.
Yeah.
Not as much as Bob Ross does, though.
I would say, in my opinion, I don't consider Bob Ross a great artist. I really don't.
Really?
I really don't. I think that he had a thing that he was really good at as far as how well he could recreate it. Or at least replicate the technique over and over again.
Yeah.
And I think he made a great name for himself. And I think he was an awesome personality, especially for TV at the time.
Yeah.
Like, he was definitely a type of energy that was needed in media. But as far as his artwork, I don't ever say that he is one of the greats. And I don't dislike him in any way.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't put him up there.
Yeah. He wasn't really innovating anything that was new. Landscapes, especially like the ones he was painting,
Right.
had been made for hundreds of years at that point.
Yeah.
But I think his main strength wasn't that he was a great artist, is that he was a great art instructor.
Yeah, he was a lovely art teacher. He really was. I mean, to this day, his art tutorials essentially have been used in like trends. Like,
yeah,
it was a trend there for a second, especially during, I think, COVID. During lockdowns.
Of people painting along with them and such.
Yeah, to calm down, to enjoy creating something. But that also kind of leans into the fact that his method was a bit easier technically than other things. What about, do you consider him a great artist?
I think he's a good artist. I don't know about great. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody is really a great artist, because it's all subjective.
Yeah, for sure.
And like art as we see it nowadays is a kind of a newer concept in general, because like back in like ancient Greece and such, they just had one word for art.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just visual art, it was art, craft, music, medicine.
And it was for stuff. It wasn't necessarily just to
look at,
to hold our attention.
Yeah. So I think he was an amazing and great inspiration and art instructor, but that's also...
Great hair.
Great hair. Oh. Snaps for the hair, but a great artist is... I mean, I would have to see his pieces that he didn't air. I'm only familiar really with his aired pieces.
If there are any that don't follow the same methodology, it might all be just the same thing, which is fine. I mean, if you find something that
you're good at,
enjoy and that you're good at, I don't see a problem doing it over and over again.
Yeah.
It's just, I definitely knock you down a peg as far as...
Yeah, you have less versatility.
Yeah, and I think that's also, I give that from like judging art contests. I had the opportunity to judge a high school art contest.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of the stuff that we were looking at was not the ability to recreate. It was everything else. So it was how much innovation is shown, how much genuine, like, from the heart creativity is in this. Is this maybe a media that we don't see as often? That kind of stuff stands out more as far as when you have to put a label on it, right? Like, when you are picking a first, second, third, like that, you have to be pickier than if you're just viewing stuff in a museum. And I think Bob Ross, if he was in an art contest, let's do that. If Bob Ross was in a high school art contest with one of his paintings, and he was up against, let's say, Van Gogh, I would pick Van Gogh because it's not as simple, I guess. There's a lot more emotion behind it and drive. You can see that there's just more in it. And I think that's probably why people don't consider Bob Ross as such a...
Yeah. Van Gogh had the drive and the power. And he stayed hungry, and he sure devoured.
He sure did.
Put in the work, put in the hours. They both did.
Yeah.
But he took what was his.
Yeah, he absolutely did. And that is why Bob Ross is not a great artist. He did not devour.
And he did not. He put in the work and he put in the hours, but
did he put in the work?
Well, I mean, he would. It's not like he was lazy about it. He made 2 paintings for each of his episodes.
For sure, but at the same time, if he found it easy,
is it really?
Is it really work?
Probably. I mean,
I forgot how massive his easel was, by the way.
I thought you were going to say his hair.
No, that's a memory you can't really get rid of.
True.
That is a visual imprint in my brain, for sure. But the size of his palette is ginormous.
Is that a palette in your pocket? You're just happy to see me. I'll edit that one out, too.
No, you can keep that one in.
So, our final verdict is not a great artist because not much originality or spice, but a great art instructor.
Great art instructor, great personality.
Good vibes.
Especially on TV.
Yeah.
And something that I'm glad I had as a kid.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to be part of the generation where he started, but at the same time, future generations will also know Bob Ross for forever. Like, he made a huge impact and will be imprinted in the minds of, you know, most people who like art for the foreseeable future. I mean, like I said, him being in trends.
Yeah, he's more accessible than the quote-unquote old masters.
Yeah.
Because I knew about Bob Ross way before I knew about the Ninja Turtles or Caravaggio or Kandinsky, Monet. I was like, who are those guys? I only know Barbarino.
Yeah.
I only know Robert Ross.
And he's not just for kids.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
He's for everybody.
He's for everybody. He will continue on for a long time, which, of course, you know, people like the masters that we were just talking about, they probably will too, but he'll stand out in a different way. Yeah. He's got a lot more, like you said, he's a lot more accessible. He's got a lot more going for him that he'll have a very different crowd enjoys his content way more than other people. Like, he touches the creative parts of people who are not already in the art world, which a lot of the other greats can't say that.
Yeah. Maybe we should do like a sign off, like for really cool.
But we're not, though.
That could be our sign off. We just did it. Perfect. All right. I'm gonna put a pause at this now.
It's 2:22. Make a wish.
What?
It's 2:22. Make a wish.
Oh,
it's listening to me.
Technology's always listening to us.
I know, it's scary.
Anyways,